Hello, friends, colleagues, clients, and trespassers. Welcome to Coach2Coach, the show where the world of coaching opens up to you, our listeners. I'm Laurie Schloff, executive communication coach over too many decades. Coach2Coach aims to inform, teach, entertain, provoke, amuse, and invite you to engage, all in a 15-minute time period. Super coaches can do it all. Each coach will feature a coach supreme, someone who's changing the world, one coachee at a time. And here we go. Coach2Coach to you. Welcome to our second show. The first one with a fantastic coach who happens to be my daughter, Hava Horowitz, and I talked about authenticity. And it was a big hit. Today's topic is, can leaders change their spots? Which is a takeoff on, can leopards change their spots? And if so, how do leaders develop new behaviors through coaching? My guest is one of my favorite people, Alesia Latson. She's a leadership coach. She's a co-founder of Lead Vantage. I hope I said it right this time. And most of all, she is pretty much my lifelong dear friend. So, Alesia, welcome. And before we go deep, let's share each other's first impressions of each other. One thing I can say is we were a lot younger.
Yes. Yes. And I can sum up my first impression of you, dear Lori, in one word: dynamo. Just
Ooh.
energy and wonderfulness and graciousness all wrapped up. So, yes, dynamo.
Well, ditto for you. And Alicia's so memorable because I would think when I met you, I was maybe 6, 7 months pregnant or something. And you gave me my first baby gift for Hava, my daughter, who did the first show. And it was a onesie with little Peter Rabbit motif. So I am very grateful for that. And maybe we won't tell them what I gave you for your wedding. Okay, guys, I'm not going to believe it. Well, how do you want to say it, Alicia?
Something spicy to wear on.
Undergarments for her wedding gift. Okay. All righty. Okay. Well, now on to the semi-serious stuff. I'm always wondering, can leaders change? And what are some of the ingredients that account for that change in your experience?
It's such a good question. Can leaders change? And I think in my mind, it's less about changing and more about choosing. And in that way, leaders can choose to expand their range of effective behaviors. And if that's a choice that they make, then absolutely, absolutely, they can.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah. You know what I want to ask you about, learning about your work. And we do some similar things, but maybe different terminology. What is deliberate practice? Because that really impressed me, since I see myself as a person who helps people to change their behavior. What is deliberate practice?
Yeah, I would say, well, first off, it's a research methodology that is the gold standard for learning a skill, for acquiring a skill. And deliberate practice is all about getting clear about an objective, a skill that you want to build, and then to have a coach give you feedback, and then you integrate and practice that feedback. And it's through multiple exposure, multiple repetition, that new synapses get created that then creates new behaviors. So that's at
Yeah.
the heart of it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And we're so much on the same page. I was thinking about, and you can add to this list if you want, the ingredients for change. So one is, of course, intrinsic motivation. And I always think of that joke. I know, like, one joke. How many shrinks does it take to change a light bulb? One, but only if the light bulb wants to change. I see why I love Alicia. She is my best audience ever. And then motivation, maybe timing. Like, if I work with someone, I'm gonna in a minute I'll talk to people about how to be concise. If I work with someone on how to be concise, but they're not going to a meeting for 3 months, You know what I mean? It's very difficult because there's not a motivation to succeed in a particular place. And then, of course, feedback received. So anyone motivated can internalize feedback, I hope, in a healthy way. And that can be motivating to
Mhm,
change. The
mhm.
practice opportunities are big. So yeah, add to that any ingredients you see is helpful for leaders to change. And then we're going to launch into our coaching demo.
Well, I would say the last thing you said is the ability to integrate feedback. That's so important, because that's where the new connective tissue in terms of transforming what you know into what you can do. And so feedback is just required. It's
Right.
foundational to
Yeah.
effective change.
This Alicia, this is really a great transition because a big part of our show is a little mini Mini or Mickey. Sorry, don't laugh because I know she likes my humor. Is a little mini demo.
Mhm.
Um, so Alicia, pretend I am a leader who wants to learn about how to give feedback. Is there a technique you can give me that'll make me more comfortable?
Yes, my favorite technique is Marshall Goldsmith's feed forward because it points to what can be done differently in the future. And the key to giving effective feedback or feed forward is to first start off with um, objective language. I think where feedback goes wrong is when people start with an evaluation. So, for instance, I don't think that meeting, I want to give you some feedback, that meeting didn't go well. So, first, as soon as a person hears the word feedback, they're going to think nothing good is going to happen in this conversation. And two, when you start off giving an evaluation, already it sets them up to be defensive. And so what's effective is to keep your language descriptive. I call it giving people a verbal video. And so first, never say the word feedback, but really say what you're about to say, which is you're going to share an observation. So in this case, Laurie, I want to share some observations about what I noticed in the meeting. And what I noticed is that half of the team sat silently throughout, and then here's the feed forward. What I would suggest in the future is that we give them a meeting packet that will outline the discussions that we want them to be prepared to participate in. And so there's no judgment, right? There's nothing to push back on. It's just sets a conversational table that's constructive and productive.
I love it. It was this show is short and sweet, but gosh, there's so many nuggets there. Of course, the feed forward, which I'm going to adapt. I might even come up with a new term since I love coming up with all sorts of new terms. I also like the fact that, and I can be sensitive to feedback as a leader. I didn't feel sensitive. I felt like you were really on my side. And in that sense, it was going to be very helpful. So I didn't feel a fear response.
That's right.
So that must have been really good. Thank you for that demo. Okay, time for Coach Laurie's demo. So
Yes.
my demo related to a skill is this comes up constantly. This scientist needs to be more concise. This architect is long-winded. People need to report to the executives with executive briefings. In fact, once I started a course, executive briefings, not about underwear. Okay, there I go with the crazy humor. So I love this audience. Anyway, so everyone, this is so easy. To be concise in 30 seconds, I'd like to use a headline, which is 15 words or less, back it up with 3 points. We all know the rule of three. People love things
Mhm.
in threes. So let me give you a made up example. Everyone in this company needs to be using blue pens from now on. And there are 3 reasons why. First, this is called digital enumeration, by the way. First, blue pens help people to feel calmer. Second, blue pens help people to feel more engaged so they can engage in meetings like Coach Alesia would like them to do. And third, blue pens add to productivity and the bottom line. Of course, I do wish that were true, but it was an example of headlines and points. So I think putting it all together, I think those were quick illustrations of the kinds of things that people can kind of pick up and apply pretty quickly. How about success? Do you feel that leaders feel successful, and do changing behaviors and practicing behaviors help them to feel more effective as a leader, Alicia?
I do. I mean, I think when people see like the arc of their development, right? When they see how the level that they were performing in session one, and then they see the difference by session four, like that's that intrinsic motivation when they can see how they're expanding the range of effective behaviors. And so, yes, it's incredibly satisfying and incredibly rewarding for for the coachee and for me to be a witness to that learning journey. So
Right.
yes, I would say that.
Yeah. And that light bulb joke. I mean, can most people change, or what are have you ever come across a situation where it's really hard? We coaches also have to confess sometimes it's difficult.
It's a commitment, right? It takes a commitment. And I think, you know, you know, we just are, I think, we're, you know, what we do consistently is who we say we are. When the truth of the matter is that they're just behaviors that we do all the time. And so we can make choices always.
I
And
love
I
that
think
word choice. I
that's
love it.
that's the key versus default ways of being, right? There's a default way, but we can be also intentional in our way. And I think that's really at the essence of choice, is being intentional about how do you want to show up and how you want to engage.
Yeah. And also related to change, and maybe this is, particularly true as a communication speech coach, there are degrees of change. And so I'll just be candid. If someone is the worst speaker ever, are they going to end up being Tony Robbins? No.
Mhm.
But can people get to the next level? That's delightful to see, going up a couple of levels. So, how important, I guess the question is, are realistic goals?
Yeah, I think they're very important. And I think, from deliberate practice perspective, that theory says is that with practice, you can get as good as you'd like. Now, you may not ever be a maestro, but you can approximate
Okay.
pretty expert behaviors with practice. And so it's so nice to know that we have agency. We don't have to be, stuck at a level of competency. With practice and commitment, we can absolutely expand what we're capable of.
Yeah, you know what just really occurred to me is the optimism of coaches. We really we approach our team meetings, our individual meetings with an amazing amount of optimism on
Mhm.
behalf of our clients. And I'd love to have a show about that. Would you perhaps come back
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
talk
Oh my
about that?
goodness. Yes, I would. That'd
And
be
you
fun.
always make me feel so optimistic. So, as we wrap up, quick show, but chock full of thoughts and ideas about behavior and what coaches do, what people need to do to change. Anything that you can think of in terms of a thought, a takeaway thought?
I'm going to share one of my favorite quotes. It's kind of long, but I'll do it really quickly. It's by R.D. Lang. And here's the quote. He says, "The range of what we think and do is limited. It's limited by what we fail to notice. And because we fail to notice that we fail to notice, there is little we can do to change until we notice how failing to notice shapes our thoughts and deeds." It's a mouthful, but it really gets at the heart of it, is that starting to notice, then choice becomes available, and then all things become possible.
Beautiful. Wow, I think I'm going to watch the show again and again to go over that too. And I made up something called GOB, GOB, and it fits right in with what you're saying. That in order to change, the G stands for, have a goal. What's your goal? What's your intrinsic? What do you want to work on? What feedback? Put them into the funnel. What's your goal? And then the next one, the O stands for observe. I think that's what you were thinking about or talking about with that quote. Self-observe, observe others. How do you want to come across? What's important to you? And the B stands for, big in my world and in yours as well, behaviors. And one of my quotes, I wrote a slide book called Speech Gems, is people can't see your character, your heart, or your soul. They judge you. We don't have many clues by how you sound, what you say, and the wonderful nonverbal feedback some people like Alicia give us. So this was a fantastic second show with my friend and coach extraordinaire, Alesia Latson. You know, as we end, having goals and expanding our comfort zone, even just a bit, adds to our results. That's what we're in business for. Team happiness and our own personal well-being, don't you think? So thank you so much for being here now, today, and see you next time on Coach to Coach. Keep on coaching.